What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to another Guide to Ride, where I will show you guys how to commute in different public transit systems with ease. Today, we'll be looking at the streetcar system for the TTC, or Toronto Transit Commission, in Ontario. These streetcars are definitely a great way for you guys to whiz through the busy traffic in downtown Toronto. But streetcars are so slow and they take up space on our roads! Okay, yes, that is true, especially on major streets downtown like King Street, where it's surrounded by slow-moving traffic, shops, people, and not to mention the amount of electric cables the streetcars use, especially at Grand Union intersections like this, and also the screeching sounds the streetcars make when they turn at loops like this. And it's just busy and condensed all around. But you guys have to understand that the streetcar system is vital for transporting thousands of Torontonians across the city, because not everyone can just drive a car around and pay for gas and stuff. And you guys got to admit that during the past decade, the streetcar system has definitely went in the right direction in terms of convenience, accessibility, and comfort. Also keep in mind that the TTC does have a bus and subway system as well. The guides for these are coming soon at a later date. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide to ride, and thank you for your support to this channel. Back in the earlier days of TTC streetcars, you originally had to board through the front doors and pay your fare in front of the driver. But now, with the introduction of the new Bombardier Flexity Outlook streetcars, the network operates following a system known as proof of payment. These new streetcars are incredibly convenient machines because they are very accessible and you can board and disembark through any of the open doors. You guys can pay your fare as soon as you walk into that streetcar. Presto card readers are conveniently placed throughout the interior. There's also ticket machines on board where you guys can pay your fare using your coins in exact cash. No change, bills, credit cards, or debit cards unfortunately, and TTC's old tokens are currently being phased out. You guys can also use other valid forms of proof of payments like a transfer or day pass, which you will need to purchase before boarding, most likely at a subway station. But be warned, because fare inspectors will randomly board streetcars to check your tickets, so please have your valid proof of payments ready when riding. Finally, don't hesitate to check your phones for the schedule of your streetcar route. I definitely recommend using the app Wiz. Keeping all these in mind, and you guys should have a pleasant experience riding in TTC's streetcars. Streetcar operation in the city of Toronto actually began way back in 1861, back to a time where even the TTC wasn't established yet. Horse-drawn streetcars like this rolled along the tracks in this 19th century Toronto, and they were operated.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer every night.
By the Toronto Street Railway Company until 1891. In fact, the TSR opened the first Canadian Street Railway line on September 11, 1861, which operated from Yorkville Town Hall to the St. Lawrence Market. In 1894, the horse-drawn cars were fully replaced by electric streetcars, and these were operated by the Toronto Railway Company, or Toronto Civic Railways, until 1921, when finally the Toronto Transportation Commission, now known as the Toronto Transit Commission, was created. Now, under this new network, TTC streetcars became a very popular way to travel around the city for most of the 20th century. Fast forward to the 1950s, after World War II had ended, many cities in North America and Europe were actually beginning to replace their streetcar systems in favor of buses, as they were now seen as obsolete. The TTC did actually consider this with their streetcars and wanted to eliminate all their streetcar lines by 1980. Thankfully, this did not happen. A group was formed by the community who voted against the complete abolishment of Toronto's streetcar system. Although many of the original streetcar routes have now been abolished in favor of the new subway system or for other reasons, the streetcar lines that we have today are definitely still going strong. Currently, there are 10 routes on the TTC streetcar system, and 4 additional routes as part of the Blue Knight network system, operating between 1:30 to 5:30 a.m. And they are the following. The 501 Queen, which normally operates from Neville Park Loop on the east end and travels to Long Branch Loop on the west end, traveling along Queen Street, the Queensway, and Lakeshore Boulevard. The 301 Queen is available on this route as part of the Blue Knight service. Next, we have the 503 Kingston Road, which travels from Bingham Loop on Victoria Park Avenue west to Charlotte Loop near Spadina Avenue. The original 502 Downtowner route ended up merging into today's 503 routes back in September 2019. Next up, we have the 504 King, which actually operates as 2 branches along King Street. The 504A travels from Dundas West Subway Station on the west end to Distillery Loop on the east end. The 504B travels from Dufferin Gate Loop on the west end to Broadview Subway Station. The 304 King is also available as a Blue Knight option, which travels between Dundas West and Broadview subway stations. Next, we have the 505 Dundas, which travels from Dundas West to Broadview subway stations. But unlike the 304 King, this route travels along Dundas Street instead of King. Next, we have the 506 Carlton, which travels from Main Street subway station on the east end all the way to the streetcar loop at High Park on the west end, serving customers on Gerrard, Carlton, and College Streets. This route is also part of the Blue Knight network, operating as the 306 Carlton. Next, we have the 508 Lakeshore, which is currently suspended due to COVID-19, but is expected to resume after completing some track work. The route used to only operate during the weekday rush hours. It traveled along Lakeshore Boulevard, the Queensway, and Queen Street from Long Branch Loop on the west end to Parliament Street on the east end only during the morning rush hours, while during the afternoon and evening, it would only travel in the opposite direction, which was very interesting. Next, we have the 509 Harbourfront, which operates on dedicated streetcar lanes and travels between Union Station on the east end to Exhibition Loop. Next, we have the 510 Spadina, which also operates on dedicated streetcar lanes on Spadina Avenue. It travels between Spadina subway station on the north end to either Union Station, Queens Quay Loop, or King Street, with a total of 3 branches. It is also part of the Blue Knight network, operating as the 310 Spadina. Next, we have the 511 Bathurst, which travels from Bathurst subway station on the north end to Exhibition Loop on the south end. And last but not least, we have the 512 St. Clair, which also operates on dedicated streetcar lanes along St. Clair Avenue. It travels between St. Clair subway station on the east end to Guns Loop on the west end, close to Keele Street. Now, for the fleet roster, there is pretty much only one type of streetcar on active service across the system, and that is, of course, the Bombardier Flexity Outlook vehicles. Now, what's interesting about the Flexity Outlooks is that each vehicle is fitted with a streetcar pole and a pantograph, and so either one can be used to power the streetcar. Although the Flexities originally ran on pole power when they first entered service, the problem was that the new streetcars actually needed 2 times the amount of electricity that the streetcar poles could feed into the vehicle. This affected the streetcar's performance and lost passengers their AC. And so because of this, pantograph operation was introduced on the Flexity Outlooks, which gave the streetcars much better performance. And so through the years, more and more streetcar routes were converted to be pantograph compatible as the older streetcars got phased out. And the TTC expects the entire system to be like this by 2025. All 204 of these new streetcars basically took over the likes of those nostalgic CLRV and ALRV streetcars. The last ALRV retired back in September 2019, while the CLRVs retired in December 2019. But don't worry guys, these streetcars were either kept by the TTC for special events, or sold to the Holland County Radio Railway Museum, or sold to other private owners. Before the CLRVs and ALRVs arrived back in the 1980s, the TTC used to operate these President's Conference Committee or PCC streetcars that were from the 1950s. And before that, the TTC operated these Peterwood streetcars, which were from the 1920s. These streetcars came in small and large variants. The large widths were actually fitted with a rear coupler, which enabled them to haul these streetcar trailers, which essentially were cabless clones of the Peterwoods. If only the TTC kept those around. And by the way, this fleet roster does not include the streetcars TTC's predecessors used to operate. Alright, and so this will just about do it for this guide to ride on the TTC streetcar system. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful and informative for your next journey aboard these streetcars. Make sure to plan wherever it is you guys are going. Watch for the signage and streetcar tracks that guide you to the station, and don't forget to ask for help when you need it. Pretty soon, you guys will be able to breeze through the chaoticness of downtown and on public transit. Have a great day guys, and I'll be back for the next video.
Next stop, Richmond Street West.